If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, Josh. Josh, how you doing today?
Man, I don't know. I just don't. It's been we're December, holiday season. The weather's up, the weather's down. It's windy, it's cold, and then we intersperse it with so many activities. I have no idea where I am. How you doing, man?
Lost right now?
A little bit. I have no idea where I am.
It's been pretty busy, and I think you have even more going on than I do. So, and week to week, it's chaos here in the holiday season. So,
yeah, I've got to go pick up my daughter, but not right now. I already did it today. But like, she's in a musical now in high school, and I've got to go get my son. He's in cooking club. Kids in cooking club. Love it. Won't make a meal for us. Everything he brings home I'm allergic to, but he's in cooking club.
Well, as long as he's cooking it there so you don't die from it.
Yeah. And then it's just we're trying to get stuff done around here, and it's just so busy all the time. I'd lose myself if got 5 more feet to move in.
Well, it seems like a perfect segue into our one shot. So today we're going to do a Let's Make a One Shot. Seems like an appropriate thing. And since you're a little lost, how about we talk about the Archive of Lost Things?
I mean, that's a really cool name that we definitely add to the list. So we should probably come up with a hook. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, we literally just sat down here probably 3 minutes ago and said, this is the topic. So, muling through it here, I was sort of thinking of either like kind of like a seek and find sort of thing, or this would be a really good kind of one-shot dungeon game.
Yeah.
It just kind of speaks to me in that regard, which is like, you find you find the tomb or some lost archive, and that's your crazy dungeon that you're going to be dealing with here.
I like the idea of a dungeon. I think making it sort of MC Escher-esque, where you're up the walls and underneath things and passing through corridors that are inside of themselves, sounds very fun because it's lost. You have no idea what's going on. There's piles of stuff everywhere. It could be really interesting. I think it is an archive of lost things. I think what would be interesting would be that for like a hook is, instead of you just stumbling upon said dungeon, maybe you were hired by a wizard to go and find a book of theirs. They're like, hey, I've lost a thing. I'd like you to go and find it for me. Great. Where is it? Oh, it's in here. And he opens up a closet in his wizard's tower, and it is said dungeon. It's sort of like...
That's a pretty good angle to kind of go with, or that somebody, their old masters, what is the word I'm looking for? Like hideout or place, like
domicile. Their
domicile,
even.
Yes, and they need you to go retrieve. You're saying a book, that could be an object. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a wizard in this regard. It could just be somebody who knew some kooky guy from a previous town. But we'll go with the wizard because we need a solid hook here, and so we'll do the wizard. And they're asking you to retrieve something from their archive or from somebody they know's archive.
Well, I think it doesn't matter. I think maybe that the archive of lost things could just be one of those like, hey, I've lost a thing. It's become lost. If you can go into the archive of lost things, pass through this gateway into the archive of lost things, where everything that's ever been lost ends up eventually.
Oh, if you want to be really silly, you could have gotten like a little note that says we've acquired your said object. Please come retrieve it from the archive of lost things.
That is hilarious. I absolutely love that. With like a ticket number.
Yeah.
Like, and so you've got directions inside the archive, but it turns out the archive is, as cuckoo bananas as you can possibly make it.
And because he's a wizard, he can open up the plane to get you to the archive, and that's why he opens up the closet door to let you in.
Yeah, it looks like he's opening up his closet door, but it's been enchanted or whatnot, and it is actually the entryway into the archive of lost things. Which, if you want, this is a great. I know we always talk about moving into a longer term game later, but having a place like this in your world, in your story setting, can offer all sorts of fun. What's in the archive of lost things? What sort of stuff can you get into? What other places connect here?
Yeah, no, I like the idea of it, and I even have another little bit that kind of goes with it there. Is that obviously you have a ticket, so you're trying to retrieve an item. So you go in, and there's somebody who's tending some some person, some bureaucratic person tending to the archive, and they're like, okay, you got the ticket, yeah, go find your thing.
It's on level C14 blue, and you're like, okay, which way's that? Oh, you follow the line.
It's in there somewhere. Just go find it. Just don't come out with somebody else's thing. Okay, you got the ticket, match it up with the item.
Yeah. If you are holding the ticket, you are allowed to touch the item it belongs to. Anything else could result in problems.
Yes.
I mean, you get a couple of those things in there. That can be real fun. So I'm guessing in terms of genre and setting, we've got high fantasy with Cuckoo Bananas Land.
Yeah, so you could do this in high fantasy. You could also do it in like a modern day setting. It works as well in like anywhere where you have magic. You have to have some
like modern fantasy.
Magic. Yeah, you have to have some form of magic within your world. But yeah, it could be. You end up in this very cuckoo bananas place, and depending on your setting, and we're talk probably about it in the high fantasy setting, where it's sort of like you said, like the MC Escher like painting, like it's everything's all out of place. You got the weird stairs going in all sorts of directions.
So, it's been a minute, but I have watched the new Beetlejuice movie recently. Did we want to have, if you're talking about the wizard sends you into the archive of lost things, cuckoo bananas, hallways, blah, 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 and then a lobby? You said that there would be a.
I think the lobby is necessary. So the wizard sends you to the lobby, and then the bureaucratic, basically the person who's just like sees that you have the ticket and says, okay, yeah, you can go on in and go get your thing. It's in there, and away you go. Now, could you give them a clue at this point? Maybe. Or you could say, you have to go retrieve it based on the numbers. I mean, the players are probably going to ask the person at the lobby, well, where is it? And then the person will give them some weird answer, or this is actually a good place where you can set up a decent riddle, to be able to find your clue. Or a series of puzzles. This is a true kind of puzzle style game, which is every room that's kind of cuckoo bananas is the next step to get to where you need to go. And the inherent danger of being in there is that you can't obtain somebody else's item. Taking somebody else's item results in danger, like you mentioned. So, that there's a lot of ways that you can do that, and you can also, because it's Cuckoo Bananas, you can introduce danger anytime else. But enticing people with treasure, maybe you have people who like to steal things.
Mm-hmm.
See if they want to, take the risk of walking away with something. You maybe want them to try and take something. It's always useful to play on your players' nature and have them try and, maybe I could pawn off this great, awesome sword. Like what's Excalibur doing here?
Somebody threw it in a lake. That means it was lost.
That's because it was lost, and it's in the archive of lost things right now. One genuine Excalibur.
You don't want just anybody snorkeling down and getting the thing. The lady in the lake has to go and get it. She's got her ticket, so it's safe. It's like putting it in a pawn shop where you're not allowed to buy things.
That'd be a great way to like make the place even more kooky, is that you find more things that are like very noteworthy objects lost in history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
especially if it's like the timeline doesn't match up. You're playing high fantasy, wizards, sorcerers, knights, and whatnot, and you find the Voyager spacecraft in there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just fun things like that. You just out of left field. You're just like wandering through and explain. You're just seeing things that do not belong there. Somebody's AirPods are just like sitting there on a shelf right next to the very first wheel ever made by Grok.
Yeah, this is a perfect way to kind of, even though your genre is high fantasy, you're probably playing D&D in the high fantasy world, you still have all these fun little like quirks, which is you can genre mash everything in there. And the truth is that the archive should keep it so the players can't take the items from it. So like you can't take the Spaceship Voyager back to your high fantasy world,
Mm-hmm.
but your players might want to try.
At least, you can get ideas from things, and maybe an artificer would be able to like, ooh, what can I make with this? It could be fun. But yes, I think that the directions need to be a series of riddles. I think that's a great idea. That your path itself is very maze-like.
Yep.
That there are encounters along the path. And they can be. I think an archive of lost things that's very Cuckoo Bananas. It's MC Escher, walls turning it topsy-turvy. Anything from any period of history could end up down here. You're going to end up with people that went looking for the stuff and just lost it. So maybe some other NPCs that they run across may not seem dangerous when they meet them, but are. Or may seem dangerous but are actually nice. You can run into have encounters that are more social based, but can lead the players astray. Like somebody who's lost their mind and says, "No, you're going the wrong way. This is a shortcut over here," and it's actually to lead them off the path to see if they can either waylay them or get them to steal something for them. Maybe even take their own ticket.
I do like the idea of having potentially other people that you meet within this who are also looking for items that are lost. And I could almost see one of the twists or maybe like the setback within this to be that you come across somebody who themselves is a lost thing. And they are the ones, maybe play something into the archive that, in order to get out, or that maybe they've lost their ticket. That's a good one, and they're going to try to take your ticket.
Yeah,
and so they're stuck there. They can't leave because they've lost the ticket, and now they're trying to acquire yours. And perhaps they take your ticket, and then it's a race against, trying to the work to the climax is to take that back. I actually almost set the setback up early. Is that the guy steals your ticket early, but maybe you don't realize you've lost the ticket yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm saying. You meet a guy along the road, and he's like, "Hey, That's the wrong way. There's a lot of a whole Encyclopedia Britannica collapsed on that area. You're like, that's just a couple of books. Said, no. The entirety of Encyclopedia Britannica, every book that's ever been written, that's lost. So you can't go that way. You got to come around this way. And he like leads you off, and you don't notice he's taking your ticket. And
he's taking your ticket. Maybe he even helps you through a couple of the rooms to try to get to where you're supposed to go. Like that's a great one to have, sort of a little bit of a guide, help you through some of the minutia of what you're sort of doing, especially if your players get lost here. And it's perfect, especially if you have trust in the, he doesn't have to be, if you've established that there are other people looking for items and they're not hostile necessarily, it's a lot easier to trust somebody else who is also doing stuff within the archive who might then betray your players. And that's actually the best way to do it, is to let them be betrayed by someone who they trust and then let them figure out like what to do. Maybe he leaves you in a trap or one of the bad spots. The Encyclopedia Britannica, as the Devolve had lost, are starting to tumble upon you as the room is collapsing or being avalanched by Encyclopedia Britannica. And this man starts walking away with your ticket, saying, "Thank you, I can finally leave."
Because the guy at the lobby told you can only leave with the item on your ticket.
Yep.
But also, if you don't have a ticket, you can't leave.
Yeah.
So like, this is do or die. You've got to find that thing, and maybe the guy's in there not only to steal your ticket, but maybe he is also looking for whatever the wizard was. Maybe it's somebody that knew the wizard. Maybe it's just a guy that was in there. You can have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah. Again, I think it's fun. I think some of the other conflicts you can have are, again, things that are lost to like mythos. You could have like creatures that are stalking the archive because they are also like physically lost objects, or like lost to time itself. And so I think that'd be interesting in terms of like some different types of encounters. I like the idea of the riddles to get you through, and I like the idea of trying to think of some other really good puzzles that you could do with that revolve around that theme of lost items. So that'd probably be the direction that you'd want to go to get your players to work through things. And your traps would just be like different weird lost items as well. So
yeah,
it's just
not everything is trapped. Not like you can only leave with the stuff that's on your ticket, but that doesn't mean you can't just touch stuff. It would be very dangerous if like anything you touch gets you banished, sort of thing. But maybe you've got puzzles like the only way forward is through the ship of Theseus. And before you see two ships, an old one that's rotten and one that's the exact same thing, but it's made up of new wood. Which one's the ship of Theseus? And you just sit there like, if you know your philosophy, which one is the ship of Theseus? And it doesn't matter. You're actually supposed to go through the middle of them. Just go between the two of them. That's the direction. You can have riddles that are philosophical. You can have puzzles that are anachronistic. You can have movement through like a maze. You can draw out a maze. You can like, if you want to have a map that's a maze, it might be fun to fold it upon itself. Like make it so that one end of the maze attaches to the other end of the maze. So it's just a ring.
Yeah, again, it's kind of that wackiness of like the dungeon itself, and kind of the weirdness to the dungeon as well.
Mm-hmm. Do we think monsters also? We want any combat encounters in here?
Yes. So I was thinking like I would use like different creatures that we would consider myth. They are now lost creatures They
Yeah.
exist in the archive. And so like those are encounters that you have. So you aren't just using your standard like, here's my monster manual, here's the monsters, like, you could have the Minotaur show up.
Well, or a Sphinx, but I think it would be really fun is if, you encounter this big angry Sphinx as you come around the corner, but they're like just filing. This is where they work. And your players might, if they're involved in it, like just start going at it, like, no, she's going to defend herself, but she's not there to fight. I think having a little bit of that subversion in a place like this is super fun.
No, that's a big key to it, is that not everything is there to harm you and haunt you. It's some of that's there to be the backdrop to the goofiness that is around the entire thing, which is why, like, again, when you encounter other people who are looking for things, it's not necessarily and like each one of them can be a clue as a better way to get to your object. They're all sort of your get out of jail free card. Okay, your players are lost. Here, this is how you get there. This is how you get there.
Yeah. I do think there should be some like reoccurring enemies or just like something. I like book spiders, but like sock monkeys, because there's so many lost socks. They're all sock monkeys now.
Yes.
What else is a good thing? Just like lint monsters, or what's something historically that is always lost?
Historically, that's always lost.
Just like tons of remotes and keys. I don't know.
Oh, you're actually looking for the physical objects that become monsters in this.
Yeah, just because there's like so many of them, they get a life of their own. Or maybe it's the monster that steals socks. A big old like ooze sort of monster that just steals socks. Just a giant mass of socks, all mismatched.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, there's a lot of different ways you can go with. You can go with like, again, that's the level of kind of goofy monster there, but it's still a perfectly good monster to have within this kind of weird dungeon that you have. So, again, I like the idea of a lot of, like, there should be some encounters. I mean, just whether it be you got to minimally have one alternate encounter to the final one. But I think probably 2 or 3 encounters.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So we're talking our final encounter. We're talking our climax. We had the guy stole our ticket beforehand,
and he left you in a trap, probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
that's probably where you're set upon by the book spiders, and he told you not to go that way because of the Encyclopedia Britannicus, but all the encyclopedias grew legs and are starting to chase you. And he ducked one way and you ducked the other way. And it wasn't until you're done that you realized he's got your ticket.
Yes. And this is the one time when I would say, you don't need to give your players like the way out. This is the end of your game. The players should just accept that in order to get out of here, they're going to have to apprehend this man or reclaim the ticket.
Yeah.
Or steal somebody else's ticket, which would be part of the unscrupulous player route. But
yeah, but then you're going to get back to the wizard with nothing. And the wizard, sent you in there for something.
Yes. So the question is, how do you track down the man who now has stolen your ticket in a place that has no rhyme or reason?
Well, that's a good question. Is the guy going for the item on the ticket? Do you need the item on the ticket to leave?
No, I believe you just need a ticket to leave. Like, you can't just, because otherwise you might be a lost object within the dungeon.
I mean, yeah. So if you've got a ticket and you can leave, then as soon as he's got a ticket, if he wants out, he's leaving, right?
Yes, that's it. That was his goal of taking the ticket. Is he's been lost and he wants out.
So you know the path that he took out of there. Your real solution then is to cut the more dangerous path, the one he said not to take. It might be quicker, but it's way more dangerous.
Yes.
And you hope to cut him off.
And you will if you take the dangerous path. Mm-hmm. If you take the not dangerous path, can you catch up to him? I have to believe yes, because otherwise, what's the point?
I would assume that if you take the dangerous path, you catch up to him just as he's getting to the exit. But if you take the not dangerous path, you catch up to him at the lobby where he's arguing with your lobby guy. Says, "No, this is my ticket. I'm allowed to leave."
Yes, so maybe you have two different outcomes there. I would probably always, I mean, if you want to be like things are going to get bad for you, you give them the main, the safe path out, and you make it a chase, and you either win or you lose. If you want to make it, if you want to do more of the hand wavy sort of game, you do one of the two things that we talked about there, which is you either head him off or he's in the lobby and now he's arguing, and it's based on what the player's actions are at that point that can lead to, will the players recover the ticket and be able to leave, or will the players be stuck there?
Yes. And I think that means that you can have sort of your showdown with the guy, and like, this is a person that's probably been lost in the archive for a while, so what he has access to, what he can do, might be a little weird also. I read a interesting article was talking about how to make liches more fun. Because liches have existed outside of time and they exist for these immense periods of time, use older versions spells. So like if you're playing D&D 5e, use like a third ed spell, use a second ed spell. They're super different. They can still work within the game. They're super different though. And you might be able to pull in some things like that. You're playing D&D, you might throw a Pathfinder spell at them, or something from some other system or game. It could be interesting if you want to be that way. But I think that, sort of that forbidden knowledge, that hidden information, the anachronistic nature of things, you're playing Swords and Sorcery and this guy pulls out an Uzi. It might be interesting. You just have to make sure that it's balanced and doesn't ruin your players' nights.
Yeah, I mean, he's a person who maybe has taken a bunch of things. Maybe this is why he can't be let out of the lobby at the time.
Yeah,
maybe he's acquired something that he shouldn't have, and he's trying to get away with that ticket, and he's trying to leave with something else. If you've established that taking things for an extended period of time results in danger, then again, he's been here for a long time, so maybe he's found some ways around all that kind of hinkiness, so that allows him to play with weird things, like you said, like he's got a modern weapon in your high fantasy world, which is very interesting as well. So you end up in this very fun encounter, which is unique in that it's going to be just very different than something that you would probably encounter, like you said, with the liches. So I think that's a good way of going about it. A good way to swing the encounter potentially in your favor is because he has acquired something he should not have in the archive. That can balance whatever sort of advantages he has within the combat itself. So, you could play that into the combat and be able to adjust the combat freely as you see fit throughout it. It's a good way to actually be able to, if you've overtuned your final enemy here, to be able to scale him down to be able to meet the challenge the players need, because he has something that he shouldn't have.
Yeah, if you want to do hand wavy and just like, hey, this is one shot, this is fun, but my players are getting just mauled out there. Well, somebody notices a shadow overhead, and then suddenly the Sphinx drops on the guy and like, you're not supposed to have that, and takes away his weapon, and
It
then
doesn't
flies
even
back
need
to
to
the
be that
archive.
crazy and hand wavy or whatnot. It just could be that you know, again, play it into the other setbacks that you potentially give the players. Like, if the players took an item through multiple rooms and now they have these weird setbacks, like, you know, whatever it might be. Maybe they're suddenly have fallen ill. You know, maybe the players are beset by like a series of very odd traps. Maybe these draw the book spiders to them. Like, you know,
Yeah.
all sorts of funky things that happen within the archive of lost things. If that happens to you, well, it could theoretically happen to your big bad guy.
Yeah, maybe they stole a piece of gold or something, and every room they go through, it doubles in weight, and you just keep track of that. And you know, by this point, that one piece of gold now weighs more than all the equipment they own, and they're heavily encumbered by a single piece of coin. It could be weird things like that, where yeah, you could get sick from it. You could not be able to see things straight. It could be extra heavy. It could be extra light. It could make your aim terrible. It could absorb any magic that you fire out. Like, this is an archive of lost things, which means that if you are taking stuff that doesn't belong to you, you're going to lose. You're going to be lost.
Yes. So I think that those are ways that you can help tilt the combat more in favor of the final climax in favor of your players. And again, I don't have like a lot of qualms about like some hand wavy stuff within the one shot and whatnot. And again, you can make it as brutal as you want to. So like, don't be like, oh, I don't agree with those philosophies. I want my players to lose. Like, okay, well, if you want your players to lose, go. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can do that within the final context here. I mean, like, you know, your players could still lose because it's a combat, and, you know, things happen. There's a lot of interesting ways that you can take the final resolution, though, if like you defeat the enemy, or you don't defeat the enemy, or you don't catch the enemy. And there's a lot of different ways you could do that. So, like, number one, you do defeat the enemy, okay, and you reclaim the ticket. And actually, in all three scenarios, it sort of works in this fashion, which is that you reclaim the ticket from him because you've bested him in combat. Well, that doesn't satisfy the lobby guy, even though you saw him, you know, 20 minutes ago or an hour ago, however long it was. You took somebody else's ticket. He doesn't know who that belongs to. It certainly doesn't belong to you. So now you're stuck in the archive, or now you. You have a ticket. It's kind of a gray area. Now you have to work for the archive. Okay. And, you know, there's a way to open up kind of like the next step of a game here, which is that this is its own universe in and of itself. Or, we had some hooligans steal something from the archive. So now we have a lost object that's supposed to be in the archive, but we've lost it. Okay. I'll let you leave if you go get that back.
Yeah, like the archive offers so many options. Like working for the archive, or you know, tracking things down, or even just like returning things. Things have shown up possibly in the archive that played important roles in history, but they're showing up here in the archive, and it may be causing chaos on the other side. And so maybe you've got a role to like return objects to where they're supposed to be, so that to keep the flow of time proper.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can do within the archive itself, and even if the guy gets away, like, you're still part of the archive now. Like, you're in this living, breathing world. and maybe you're approached by the lobby guy, who's like, well, you lost your way out of here, but the archive is always hiring, and like there's ways that you can still entice your players or kind of do this weird kind of fade to black, which opens up the other piece of this. I forgot to mention how you actually, if you did end up recovering the wizard's item, and you do, I would probably have that happen at the time of the setback, is that you actually, in the trap room, you actually locate the wizard's item.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're retrieving it, that's when the setback befalls you. So like the players can, seeing that they satisfy everything, get their ticket back, return to the wizard and complete that part of the quest. But there's just a lot of ways that you can have the final resolution be lead into that extra little bit of the intrigue of what the archive is, and the offer to become part of a force of the archive, basically.
Yeah. Like, you guys were really good at finding that thing. We've got archivists making sure things are where they belong, but people can't find what they look for. And you saw the lost people in there. It could be a lot of fun with that. I thought originally when we were talking about, the resolution, the first thing that popped in my head was, you chase the guy back, and you get your ticket back, and the lobby guy goes, "Oh, that's your ticket? Hold on a second. Yeah, it's right here." Pulls out the wizard's book or whatnot, which would be hilarious. He goes, "Yeah, no, I'm sorry. We had it up here the whole time." And then it points to a basket next to you and says, "Take a phone charger when you go too. We've got millions." As a thing. But I think that him offering you a job, or having that option to get involved in the archive would be really interesting for a longer game.
Yes. Again, that's what we're always thinking about, is how do you get to potentially that longer game from a one shot. We just did the couple episodes ago, how to take your one shot, turn it into a campaign. This is something that could easily turn into a much larger game if you want to do that.
Yeah. And it could start out with just tapping down some problems within the archive. Hey, we've had a lot of problem with the spider books. We need you to go and find out why there are spider books, or shut down the monsters that are coming in. We're getting a whole bunch of monsters in sections they're not supposed to, whatever it is. And then maybe you're returning some items, and then there's maybe historical problems that you've got to go through. And it can sort of build into this whole thing where you start doing little things, and it turns bigger and bigger and bigger until there's maybe a problem that the archive itself needs you to resolve to save everybody.
Yes, I like the idea of being able to give the players an opportunity to return to the archive. It's basically what you're doing is saying, okay, yeah, you succeeded or you failed, whichever way you want to go with it. In this world, we're coming up with the one shot, so we're going to say you succeed, but we're going to work towards ways that you succeed and get the item back. But this is also then the so players succeed, and then the archive offers some opportunity within it. So here's the big question: the maps, because this is a dungeon.
Yeah,
and so
we probably need at least I don't know if you need to have a map unless you want to go for I'm torn. I'm thinking yes, having a map is super fun because I always like having a good map. But at the same time, a City of Lost Things doesn't necessarily stay the same shape.
I see your point there, which is you could really truly theater the mind this with these are the X number of encounters that you're going to have. We don't necessarily have maps here. Maybe we have the lobby, The lobby's probably going to be a battle map.
Yes.
Maybe we have like that could be really your only one. We could maybe have the Wizard's Tower itself. We
Or
could
you
have
could have the place where the wizard's item is located.
yeah,
where
have
you
a
encounter the
fixed
setback
map
area.
or the setback area. Those are good places to if you're not going to do. I would consider dungeoning this like with a map, extra credit, and I think it's worthwhile if you were to run this game, but I wouldn't say it's necessary.
I would think that the better dungeoning for this, instead of making a map of the dungeon, would be to make a flowchart for the dungeon.
Kind of like your chase sequence.
Yeah, you have sort of here's the lobby, here are the directions they can go, here are the different encounters they meet along each of these paths, and here's how they all branch together. It would allow you to move through it and pick the different items that you want, without having to have a full map of all the twists and turns, because I think that allows you to also, especially in a one-shot scenario, it keeps you from having to, okay, it's your turn to move, it's your turn to move, it's your turn to move. It's, okay, you guys are moving on to the next set piece. We don't have to, find our way through down these hallways or whatnot, figure out this maze. It is, okay, after this is what happens. I can sort of wave my hand, do a little storytelling, a little bit of flavor text about your experience from point A to point B in the dungeon, and then this is your next encounter, and then flavor text point B to point C, so on and so forth. Encounter flowcharts are very good for this sort of thing because they let you move it quickly and also only hit the items that are important.
Yes.
As for handouts, I think the ticket.
I mean, like, so if you want the physical ticket to be part of the handout, then you need the players to physically hand it to you at some point of their own volition. So, like, it has been lost. Like, you are representing that guy. Perhaps he has taken it from you.
Well, I think that could be real easy. You get into the area and like the guy's like, "Hey, let me see that ticket real quick. I think he's around here. Let me see that." And he takes the ticket, and then the spiders attack, and you can see him run off with it.
Okay, touche. It could be really easy. So if you're physically playing at the table, the ticket could be fun. If you're, you could have some other little knickknacks that are around. I mean, it's the archive of lost things. So I mean, like, if you really want to like spruce it up and kind of have that kind of feel of it in the physical, you could put that, around the area. Or like, again, you find that gold coin, the player wants to take it, toss them some fake gold coin or something like that, and now you're carrying it. Now you're actually holding the actual item. Could be interesting. Again, I think the ticket probably makes the most sense. The rest of it kind of all,
Yeah. No, like if you were super bored and wanted to have a lot of fun with it, you could make like a little trifold flyer about the archive of lost things with like pictures and random BS text and like, come visit us in this archive of lost things. All your missing stuff is here. And just like, pictures of just mountains of books and random stuff. It could be fun. It could be like one of those, when you stay at a hotel and they got like the flyers that are out front about the mystery spot that's in town. That's what it is. But you don't have to do that. That's way too much over.
There has to be a room of all these fish that you've lost from fishing.
Yeah, then they're always this big. They're just like it had to been this big. No, you know what's actually lost in that room? That's where all of my missing lures are. That's what's there.
There we go. There you go. A room full of golf balls.
Oh, that's terrible. Just bad times, man. Dude. So, mobs and bosses. I think we've covered this. We've got the one guy that we treat with whatever we want gloves. He can have crazy out of time weapons. He can have crazy out of time spells. Um,
Yeah, so like the guy who is the breaking of the fourth wall or breaking of the genre. He's the main big bad guy. The other things that you encounter would be like the book spiders.
It's such a terrifying name, book spiders. I don't want book spiders. It's awful. The Sphinx.
The Sphinx, or the Lint monsters, any other monster that you want to throw in there that's been lost in time. Lost monsters would be the best way to put it. So again, you can we've given you 4 here. The one that you absolutely need is the crazy guy. The other one that you need is if you don't want to use book spiders, it's got to be some other thing that besets you that allows him to get away with the ticket.
Yeah. You definitely have to have like something that happens there. Now, that's absolutely right. That setback should be right where you expect the item to be. And the guy steals the ticket. You're attacked, and that's when the chase begins, or you fight off whatever's attacking you, and the chase begins. And you've got that choice: dangerous path or safe path. Either way, you have the encounter at the lobby, and then you got the resolution where they offer you the role.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like the way this has gone. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, we came into this without knowing which subject we were going to choose, and just like went for it. I think this is pretty good.
That's kind of the essence of the Let's Make a One Shot. Is we don't really know very much about what's going on. I'll pull back the curtain on these. The very first one we did, I wrote down a bunch of stuff about all this. And Josh is like, "This is the one time I don't have any notes." I'm like, "Oh, okay, got it." So you're winging it. And I got something.
Yeah, no, this is all about winging it sometimes. Because I think it's really important, and I challenge every listener, do this. Sit down and take just a random phrase or an idea and build it into a little story. You don't need to flesh it out all the way until you actually want to run it, but doing it like we do here, where you take a hook, pick a genre, a setting, and like work through just a couple of plot points. We pick, what is it, 5, 6 plot points. You've got an introduction, you've got a puzzle, you have some sort of setback, a climactic event, and then a resolution. And just with that alone, you can have a lot of fun creating a little story.
Yeah. No, I think the template's always really good to kind of go back on. So let us know your thoughts on the Archive of Lost Things. Let us know what you've lost in the Archive of Lost Things. levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Also, the podcast is on YouTube, so you can smash the like button there. Subscribe to the podcast, to your favorite podcasting site, review it, recommend it to a friend, all those good things. That'll help us out. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.